Uncle promised to pay for my college, then spent the money on a boat, so I reported his tax fraud. I'm standing on the dock with my acceptance email open on my phone, and my uncle is 20 feet away, barefoot on the deck of a gleaming white fishing boat, laughing like he doesn't have a care in the world. The sun is bouncing off the chrome rails. The name Sea Change is stenciled in blue script across the stern, and there's a bottle of champagne sweating in a cooler by his feet. He waves the keys at me like a game show host. "Come on, kiddo," he shouts. "Take a picture with your old uncle and his midlife crisis." I finally did it. My mouth is dry. My hand is literally shaking around the phone. I just got off a call with the bursar's office 30 minutes ago, sitting in my car in a marina parking lot. The woman's voice was polite but firm. "If we don't receive the first semester payment by the deadline, your place will be offered to someone on the wait list." I stared at the numbers on the screen, tuition, fees, housing, and thought, it's okay, Uncle Dave promised. Now I'm looking at where my tuition went. It's bobbing gently in the water, with my uncle's name on the registration and his girlfriend's beach bag on the passenger seat. "Isn't she beautiful?" he calls, oblivious to the way my face has gone numb. "Cost me an arm and a leg, but you only live once, right?" To understand how sick that felt, I have to back up a bit. I'm 20 now. This whole mess started when I was 10 and my dad died. My dad was the practical one in our small family. He had a boring job in insurance, wore the same 3 shirts on rotation, saved receipts in a shoebox like some kind of dragon hoarding paper treasure. He wasn't flashy, but he was solid. Then one random Tuesday morning, he had a stroke at work and never woke up. The weeks after that are a blur of casseroles, hushed voices, and my mother staring at the wall like someone unplugged her. I remember the smell of lilies at the funeral and the way my aunt's perfume made me slightly nauseous. I remember adults talking in the kitchen like I was deaf in the next room. "She's only 10, somebody said. "What is Lauren going to do?" "We'll help," my Uncle Dave's voice said. He was my dad's younger brother, the fun one. Loud, charming, ran his own contracting business. The kind of guy who never wore a tie to anything, even weddings. A couple of weeks after the funeral, he came over with a thick envelope and a sad but determined expression. We were at the dining table. Mom sat across from him, hair scraped back, dark circles under her eyes. I hovered in the doorway, hugging my knees because I hated being sent to my room when grown-ups talked money. "This is the payout from the life insurance," he said, tapping the envelope. "Honestly, it's not that much, but it's something." Mom stared at it like it was poisonous. "I don't know where to even start," she said. "The mortgage, the car, school." Uncle Dave looked at me then, really looked the way people always say kids are resilient, and then remember we exist. "Look," he said, "you can use some of this to keep you afloat, but I think we should put a chunk into something for her." He jerked his thumb toward me. "For her future. For college." Mom shook her head. "We'll never manage college and everything else," she said. "She can get loans like everyone else. We just have to keep the house." He leaned forward. "I've been putting money into a 529 for my boys," he said. "I know how this stuff works. Give me a set amount. I'll set up an account for her. I'll manage it. Consider it my responsibility as her godfather." "I don't want you burdened with that," Mom said. "Burden?" He laughed. "I run a company, Laura. I know what I'm doing. Let me do this for her. For him." His voice wobbled just a little on that last part, meaning my dad. Mom looked at me, then at the envelope, then at him. "How much?" she asked quietly. They went back and forth for a while. I remember numbers floating through the air like foreign words. 15,000. 20. Maybe we can do 30 if we tighten our belts this year. In the end, she signed some papers he brought over the next week. I watched her pen scratch her name on lines I couldn't read. "This is for your college fund," he told me, ruffling my hair. "You're going to be the first one of us to get a degree, kiddo. We're investing in the family brain." I took that so seriously it might as well have been carved into my bones. When you grow up constantly hearing that something is for your future, you start treating your own life like a project everyone else is managing. The years went by. Mom scraped by on her job as a receptionist. I got used to hearing, "We can't afford that right now," and making wish lists on scrap paper that I never showed anyone. My uncle's company, meanwhile, seemed to explode. He started out as a small-time contractor, kitchen remodels, bathroom renovations, and gradually morphed into the guy everyone in town called when they wanted a new deck or a full renovation. His logo started popping up on the sides of vans. He posted before and after shots of clients' houses on Facebook like they were trophies. From our perspective, his life became one long string of upgrades. New truck, bigger house, family vacations to Florida, a jet ski. He was still Uncle Dave, still loud and funny at barbecues, still calling me professor and asking about my grades. But there was a subtle shift in the way everyone treated him. He's done so well for himself, my grandma would say, patting his arm. Self-made. He works hard, my mom would reply, half defensive, half admiring. He deserves nice things. Every few months, Mom would ask how the fund was doing. We're on track, he'd say breezily, flipping burgers or opening a beer. The market's been good. She'll be taken care of. Sometimes he'd pull out his phone and show us a screenshot of something that looked like an investment account balance. Being a kid, then a teenager, I didn't really understand what I was looking at. I just saw numbers with lots of zeros and heard, "You're going to graduate debt-free, kiddo. Do us proud." So I did what I was supposed to do. I studied my ass off. I didn't drink, didn't go to parties, joined every club that would look good on an application. While my friends joked about going wherever had the best frat houses, I looked up scholarship percentages and median graduate salaries. I had one job: make that investment worth it. When junior year of high school rolled around, I sat down with my guidance counselor. "With your grades and scores," she said, scrolling through my file, "you can aim high. Have you thought about state? They have a strong engineering program, and your uncle's situation means your expected family contribution should be manageable." My uncle's situation? I asked. She glanced at the notes from the FAFSA form my mom had filled out. "The 529 plan your family set up," she said. "That should reduce your need for loans." I went home on a cloud. I'd been unofficially accepted to state after an early application. They sent me the letter and the swag pack, and I wore the hoodie around the house like armor. When I told my uncle, he bear-hugged me and lifted me off the ground. "Knew you'd do it," he said. "You're the family's retirement plan." We joked about it, but under the jokes was this solid, warm thing: security. My future had a foundation. Then senior year happened all at once. College acceptances, graduation robes, the awkward last of high school life. I worked part-time at a coffee shop, stacked money in a savings account just in case. Mom and I had spreadsheets. We were ready. In April, State sent the financial aid package. It was more than we'd hoped for. Merit scholarships, a small grant, but there was still a chunk labeled family contribution that made my stomach tighten. Still, between that and the fund, it was doable. "That's what your uncle's been saving for," Mom said, tapping the number. "We're okay." I texted him a picture of the aid letter with about 15 exclamation marks. He sent back, "Look at our girl. We'll go over the numbers this weekend. Proud of you, Professor." The first little crack in the illusion came a couple of days later, in the most mundane way possible. I was at my uncle's office doing some filing. He'd hire me for a couple of summers to do basic admin. Answer phones, stuff envelopes, enter receipts into his accounting software. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid better than latte art, and I got to put office experience on my resume. I was at the computer, entering a stack of receipts. Materials from Home Depot, fuel for the trucks, a restaurant lunch with a scribbled note, client meeting. Then I came to one that made me pause. It was from a marine supply store for several $1,000s. The handwritten note in the corner said marketing. I frowned. I knew most of his vendors by then. He didn't do docks or marinas. "What's this one for?" I asked casually when he walked past my desk. He glanced at it, shrugged. "Write it off under advertising," he said. "Boat show sponsorship." I shrugged and did as he said. I wasn't an accountant. I was a teenager punching numbers into QuickBooks. Then there were other things, little oddities I registered and then pushed aside. Receipts from Best Buy for high-end TVs marked as office equipment. Cash invoices that never got entered. A thick folder in his desk labeled adjustments that he always closed when I walked in. I didn't connect it to me. I didn't connect it to the fund. I just thought, I guess this is how business works. The second crack came when we tried to set up the actual payment for my first semester. State system let you log in and see a breakdown. What aid had been applied, what was pending, what was still owed. The due date for confirming my enrollment and paying the initial bill loomed like a storm cloud. Let's meet with Dave this weekend, Mom said. Get everything lined up. We went over to his place on a Sunday afternoon. His house was all polished hardwood and leather couches now, the kind of place that smelled faintly of air freshener and money. My cousins were out back playing basketball. He had beers in the fridge, the game on mute. He sat at the dining table with us, opened his laptop. Okay, Professor, he said, let's see what the damage is. I pulled up the state portal on my phone, handed it to him. He whistled when he saw the tuition number, even after the aid had been deducted. That's highway robbery, he said. Good thing we planned ahead. He opened a browser, logged into something, turned the screen so we could see. There she is, he said proudly. Your future. I saw a number with my name on it. It wasn't as big as I'd imagined after all the years of hearing we're on track, but it was still substantial. Enough to cover the remaining tuition for the first year and a chunk of the second. I felt my shoulders drop. So we're okay? I asked. He clapped me on the back. We're golden, he said. I'll handle the payments. You just focus on packing and enjoying your summer. You only get one last summer before adulthood, kiddo. We left that day buzzing. On the drive home, Mom gripped the steering wheel a little less tightly. Your dad would be so proud, she said, voice tight. 2 weeks later, the bursar's office called. Hi, this is Angela from State University, the woman said. We're just following up on your first payment. We haven't received anything yet, and we're approaching the deadline. I blinked. My uncle is taking care of it, I said. He has the account information. She hesitated in that professional way where you can hear them choosing their words. Okay, she said, but please let him know that if the payment doesn't come through by Friday, your classes will be dropped. As soon as we hung up, I called my uncle. Hey, kiddo, he answered cheerful. What's up? State called, I said. They said they haven't received the payment yet. Oh, he said. Yeah, I've been slammed with work. I'll get to it this week. Don't stress. He sounded casual enough that I believed him. Friday came and went. The portal still said payment pending. I called again. No answer. I texted. No reply. Mom, and I started to get nervous. Maybe he's just busy, she said, chewing her lip. He always comes through. On Monday, I called his office. His receptionist, who I knew well, put me through. Hey, I said, try not to sound panicked. Sorry to bug you at work, but State is saying if they don't get the money, they're going to give my place away. There was a tiny pause. Right, he said. Look, about that, I've been meaning to talk to you. My stomach dropped. Talk to me about what? He sighed. Things have been a little tight this year, he said. We had a couple of big contracts fall through. I had to move some stuff around. I felt like I was suddenly underwater, everything muffled. What does that mean? It means, he said slowly, like he was explaining a basic concept to a child, that the account I showed you, a lot of that got used as operating capital. I needed to cover payroll, materials, that kind of thing. I'm working on replenishing it, but right now, there's not enough in there to pay a full year up front. I couldn't even find words for a second. You use my college fund as cash flow. Don't say it like that, he said quickly. It's all in the family. It was invested. I just repurposed it. I'll pay it back. I just need a few more big jobs to come through. But the deadline is this week, I said. My voice sounded high and thin. They're going to drop my classes. Can you get loans for the first semester? He asked. Just to buy me some time. Loans? I repeated. You promised. I know what I promised, he snapped, then immediately softened his tone. Look, Professor, don't guilt trip me. You think running a business is easy? We've had a rough year. I had to make choices. I chose to keep 20 people employed instead of letting them go. I thought you'd understand that. You could have told us, I said. We could have made a plan. I'm telling you now, he said. We'll figure it out. We didn't. By the end of that week, despite frantic calls and a last-minute application for an emergency loan that didn't get processed in time, my classes were dropped. My shiny state acceptance turned into a deferred admission email. I watched my future shrink down to the size of the four walls of my bedroom. Mom confronted him. There was yelling, accusations. You said that money was sacrosanct, she cried over the phone. pacing our kitchen. You said you wouldn't touch it. I said I'd take care of her, he said, defensive. And I will. This is temporary. Temporary, she repeated. She had to give up her place. She can start in spring, he said. Plenty of kids take a gap semester. You're both acting like I stole it to go to Vegas. 3 days later, I saw the boat on his Instagram. New toy. He captioned it with a bunch of hashtags. Hashtag reward yourself, hashtag boat life. The comments were full of people praising him. You deserve it, Dave. Boss moves. I stared at the picture for a long time. Zoomed in on the stainless steel rod holders, the shiny new outboard motor, the luxury of it. Then I thought about the marine supply receipt and the marketing note. Something clicked into place in my brain. It wasn't a loud click. It was quiet but final. I didn't go to the marina the day he called me to see the new baby because I wanted to celebrate. I went because I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to stand on that dock with my acceptance email on my phone and look at the physical manifestation of what he'd chosen over me. When I got home after that, I opened my laptop and logged into his company's accounting software. He'd never revoked my login from the summers I'd worked there. I started looking, really looking. There were entire categories labeled promotional expenses that made no sense. High-end electronics, lavish meals that clearly weren't business-related, the boat supplies. There were cash deposits that disappeared from one report to another. 2 sets of spreadsheets. One that matched the invoices I knew about, and another with numbers that made less sense but conveniently reduced his profits on paper. I wasn't an accountant, but I knew enough from my friend who was studying finance to recognize that something was deeply off. I Googled phrases like small business red flags IRS, and my stomach churned as I ticked middle boxes. Underreported income? Check. Questionable deductions? Check. Personal expenses categorized as business? Check. I sat there till 2 a.m., eyes burning, copying files onto a USB drive. Invoices, bank statements, scanned receipts, the ledger sheets that showed the college fund transfers into his main business account. Every so often, I'd stop and think, I can't do this. This is my family. This is the man who taught me how to ride a bike and snuck me extra Christmas presents. Then I'd see that Instagram photo in my head again and the way his voice had sounded when he said, "Don't guilt trip me," while my future shrank. The next day, I called the IRS whistleblower hotline. I thought it would be dramatic somehow, like in movies, but it was oddly mundane. A recorded message, then a woman with a calm voice. "I believe my uncle is committing tax fraud," I said, and the words felt surreal coming out of my mouth. She asked for details. Names, business name, approximate amounts. I told her everything I knew. I offered to mail the documentation. She gave me an address and a reference number. At the end of the call, she said, "We can't tell you the outcome, but we appreciate the information." I hung up and felt like I was going to throw up. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on them. For weeks, nothing happened. Outwardly, life went on. I got a job at a local community college as a receptionist, trying to patch together a plan B. Mom took on extra hours. My uncle kept posting pictures of the boat, of job sites, of his hustle. Then one afternoon, about 3 months later, my mom called me at work. Her voice was high and breathless. "They're raiding his office," she said. I stepped out into the corridor, heart pounding. "What?" "The tax people," she said, "and some other agency. They've got jackets and everything. Your grandma is hysterical." I ended my shift early, claiming a family emergency, and drove past his office on my way home. There they were. Unmarked cars, a couple of official-looking sedans, men and women in plain clothes carrying boxes out of the building. My uncle stood on the sidewalk, face red, jaw clenched, hands gesturing wildly as he talked to someone who was clearly not impressed. I watched from the next street over, my fingers digging into the steering wheel. It could be coincidence, I thought. Maybe someone else reported him. Maybe this would have happened anyway. I knew better. The fallout was immediate and messy. The story spread through our family like spilled oil. "Dave's under audit," my grandma said on the phone, voice shaking. "They're saying he's been cheating on his taxes. Can you believe it? Our Dave." "Of course it's a mistake," my aunt insisted. "He'd never do something like that." I stayed quiet. It's one thing to make an anonymous report. It's another to stand in the middle of the explosion and say, I lit the fuse. The first person to figure it out wasn't my uncle. It was my mom. We were washing dishes a few nights after the raid. The TV murmured in the next room. Lily was drawing at the table. You knew, Mom said suddenly, not looking at me. Knew what? I asked, even though my chest had already tightened. That he was doing something dodgy, she said. You worked with his books. You noticed things. I dry my hands on a tea towel, buying time. I noticed enough, I said carefully. She put the plate down, turned to face me. Emma, she said, and her voice had that razor edge it only got when she was genuinely furious and trying not to show it. Did you report him? I could have lied. I thought about it. I even opened my mouth to say no. What came out was yes. The word hung between us like a thundercloud. She stared at me. You turned your own uncle in. He stole my college fund, I said, feeling the anger rise. He stole Dad's legacy. He lied to us for years. He broke the law, Mom. This isn't just being bad with money. He also helped us, she said. He paid your school fees when I couldn't. He fixed the roof. With what? I snapped. Money he didn't pay taxes on? Money he hid. She flinched. You could have ruined him. He ruined himself, I said. I just stopped covering for him. She looked at me with something like horror. Your grandmother is beside herself, she said. She keeps asking what she did wrong, raising two sons who turned on each other. I didn't turn on him, I said. He turned on me when he put a boat before my future. She shook her head, grabbed another plate, started scrubbing it like it had personally offended her. Family doesn't do this to each other, she muttered. Family doesn't steal from each other, I shot back. Word got around that I was the whistleblower faster than I expected. Maybe my mom told someone in confidence. Maybe my uncle put two and two together. Either way, within a month, my phone lit up with a text from him. We need to talk. I met him at a coffee shop because I didn't want him anywhere near our house. He looked different, thinner, more drawn, like someone had deflated him a bit. You, he said as soon as he sat down, not even bothering with hello. I should have known. The IRS doesn't just appear out of nowhere with that level of detail. I wrapped my hands around the paper cup, more to keep them from shaking than because I wanted the coffee. You committed fraud, I said. You lied on your returns. You stole my fund. His eyes flashed. I moved money around to keep a business afloat, he said. You think it's easy keeping 20 guys employed? Paying insurance, taxes, permits? I did what I had to do. You wrote off your boat as a marketing expense, I said. You had income. You had 2 sets of books. He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. Look who's an expert now, he said. Congratulations, professor. You're going to start teaching accounting at the community college. That boat cost more than a year of my tuition, I said. Do you know what it's like watching you show it off while I tell my daughter we can't afford to move out of my mother's house? He looked away for a second. I always planned to pay it back, he muttered. You always planned that someone else would bail you out, I said. The government, your workers, me. Anyone but you. He leaned forward. Do you have any idea what you've done? He hissed. They're going through everything. Years of returns. I could lose my license. I could go to jail. You should have thought of that when you were cooking the books, I said. His mouth tightened. You are ungrateful, he said, each word sharp. After everything I've done for you. You didn't do it for me, I said. You did it for how it made you look. The generous uncle with the college fund. The big man with the boat. You made a promise on my dead father's name, and then used that money as your personal ATM. He stared at me, breathing hard. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he stood up so fast his chair scraped. You're dead to me, he said, loud enough that people at the next table looked up. Don't come crying to me when that community college gig doesn't work out. I never cried to you, I said quietly. I asked for what you promised. He left. I sat there until my coffee went cold, then went home and cried in the shower where Lily wouldn't see. The investigation dragged on for over a year. The IRS doesn't move quickly. There are letters, meetings, subpoenas. I know some of this secondhand from family gossip. His business took a hit. Clients backed away. He settled a lot of it, paid back taxes, penalties, interest. There were rumors of criminal charges that were deferred if he stayed out of trouble. He had to sell the boat. That came up in a very petty part of me as a bright spot. I drove past the marina one day, and the slip where sea change had been was empty. The family didn't forgive me. Not really. My grandma never outright said it, but she started leaving me out of group texts. My aunt made snide comments about some people thinking they're better than everyone else because they went to a fancy college they never even attended. Mom was caught in the middle, torn between her loyalty to her brother and her loyalty to me. Our relationship has dents in it now that I'm not sure will ever fully buff out. Here's the part that doesn't fit neatly in a revenge story. I still feel guilty sometimes. I lie awake wondering if I should have just let it go, found another way. I picture my cousins, who didn't ask for any of this, dealing with their dad's reputation sinking. Then I'll get a letter from state reminding me that my deferred admission is still valid if I can secure funding. Or I'll sit at my desk at the community college, helping some scared 18-year-old fill out financial aid forms. And I'll think, no, this needed to happen. Because here's another quiet truth. After everything, I did end up going to state. Just a year later than planned, part-time at first, while working. I found scholarships for non-traditional students, took night classes, transferred credits slowly. It wasn't the neat 4-year experience everyone pictures, but it's mine. I'm doing it on my terms. Uncle Dave is still out there, still running a scaled-down version of his company under stricter scrutiny. We don't talk. At Christmas, if we end up in the same room, we orbit each other like magnets flipped to the same pole. Sometimes I catch him looking at me with something that looks almost like regret. Other times, it's pure resentment. I don't know if he fully understands why I did what I did. I don't know if he's capable of seeing it as anything other than betrayal. All I know is this. When someone takes a promise made over your father's grave and converts it into fiberglass and horsepower, they're the ones who broke the family. Reporting his tax fraud didn't fix my life overnight. It didn't magically put the money back or smooth over years of complicated loyalty. But it did something important for me. It proved to myself that I wasn't crazy, that what he did was wrong enough that even strangers in a government office agreed. And if that makes me the villain in the family story he tells at barbecues now, I can live with that. I'd rather be the relative who spoke up than the one who watched the boat go by and said nothing.